Hello racing fans and welcome to the Turn 1 YouTube channel. Tonight we are doing rounds 2 and 3 of the Exiled GT3 Championship Series solo events here at Zolder. So for tonight is two 30-minute sprint races, and today it's just me in the commentary booth. However, the man behind the magic, producer Steve, will be helping me out here and there when he can. So hello Steve, and everyone in the chat, please give Steve some extra love this evening.
Good evening, Celine. Glad to be here. Looking forward to Zolder. It's going to be really exciting. It's two 30-minute races. You said it's going to be absolutely awesome round here. Very tight, twisty track. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be two 30-minute barn burners as cars are going to be battling around a track where passing is not too terribly easy, but if you're going to be brave and you're feeling a little heroic, maybe you can just get it done. So before we get started, just a quick shout out to the sponsors, Turn 1, who's providing the YouTube channel and helping to organize the events. Also sponsors Simracing Solutions, the people behind the cameras and the magic to bring you all these lovely cinematic pictures. simracing.gp providing the racing servers. JCT 600 is our primary sponsor. Exiled Racing Community, and the lovely Bunatics. So when the Turn 1 YouTube channel isn't live, maybe pop over there and give him a little bit of love as he's helping to support these races as well. So, and this evening during Zolder, a little bit of teaser of what's possibly to come. We have possible in-car communications with one of our competitors this evening, Oscar Sandberg, driving for Turn 1. And before we get into qualifying, let's take a quick look at our hot lap around the circuit of Zolder. Alright, so you're coming across the start-finish line, and you're looking for those flags on the right. That's your reference, and you want to use as much of that exit curb as possible, but not go too far. Crossing too much of your car over there can give you track invalidation. And same here, keep it nice and wide, use as much of the exit curves as you can, but again, try not to run too foul of those track limits. Now here, start wide, tuck in, and push all the way to that exit, but be careful that sand on the left, that can slow you down, and that's where possibly you can see some mistakes made. There, just after the 100-meter board, brake hard, be brave over these curves, slam the car through as much as you dare, but don't lose control. It's very easy to see a car facing the wrong way going through there. And second chicane, again, brave those sausages as much as you set your car up for. Hopefully people will manage to deal with those properly. Again, touch those curbs, help get those the cars rotated. And here's probably your best passing opportunity, the hairpin, going from high speed down to slow speed, but there's not necessarily a lot of room, so those passing opportunities are going to be a premium. You're really going to have to set the move up there. Final chicane of the circuit, and also potential spot of contention as the pit lane entrance is there on the right. Tap the inside of each curb, get a good exit, and come across the start-finish line, and that is a hot lap of Zolder. Fast enough for you, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our top pro drivers there, taking us on a lap of Zolder and really showing us how difficult. I mean, those curbs, Celine, in the first chicane particularly, there's a lot of luck involved as much as there is skill with those curbs. Certainly for me, when I've driven Zolder, you get that line slightly wrong and you can soon be facing the wrong way, or even worse, hitting the barriers. And that second chicane, you've got to cut it. You've got to be greedy with it, haven't you? It's all about taking as much curb as you can there and straightening that chicane out to maximise your speed through it, and then also your exit speed into the next set of corners. So it's a difficult track, but well driven on that hot lap, Celine.
Thank you very much, and check out that amount of flattery there, chat. I'm tickled almost as pink as the car we're following. Oscar Sandberg currently sitting in first place in qualifying, and there's the live picture from the inside of his car, or sim racing cockpit as it were. Obviously, we get a much better view of him than when we get to see him doing his live sessions live at the Nürburgring, where it's mostly his racing helmet. But we do have some live images now as Jonathan Seville takes the pole position from him with a 1:27.975. The barrier has been broken, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the times are coming down a little bit now, and interestingly, there has been a little bit of an update for the BMW today from Kunos, so it'll be interesting to see how these guys manage it. I know a few of them have talked about having a lot of practice today. They've been out on track and testing, but Seville up there in pole position, and Jonathan Seville doesn't really need any introduction, does he? He's certainly a quick driver in whatever car he gets in, and certainly in that McLaren he's setting the pace, but he's only just over that tenth of a second faster than Oscar, so Oscar is still in touching distance of him. It's not a big margin to catch, but we're just looking at Solberg at the minute, who's in 4th place but only 2/10 off. The qualifying here is pretty close at the moment. It possibly could get even closer than it is now, but we're talking about tenths of a second now, which is absolutely nothing of a margin really. Visually it's so close, and you know, the guys are really putting the laps in now, and I think the track's really coming to them, and the times are coming down. And saying that, Seville has gone even faster, and he's extended that lead out to 3/10 now, so he's certainly the man on the move at the moment. His last lap was his fastest lap with a 1:27.782.
I know everyone's been talking about the BOP changes today, and the BMW isn't the only one that's actually been changed. Oddly enough, the McLaren has had some tweaks done to it as it became kind of the best of the mid-engine cars. However, Seville, obviously, currently with a 1:27.782, sitting on pole position. Oscar Sandberg right behind him in the BMW at 1:28.110. And right behind him is the next McLaren with Clemens at 1:28.1. So both of the cars that are considered the best of the best as far as the current patch is concerned, they're still up there. Although the question is how much did that aerodynamic reprofiling that came out for the BMW M4, how much did it change? Well, a lot of people are saying not much, but if you talk to some of the aliens, they were saying it was kind of slow, and kind of makes you wonder, because some are saying not that bad, others saying it didn't really affect it all, and there's one or two that were just in absolute panic. But as things stand right now, business as usual.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't think Zolder's a track that's going to really, any BOP change, any small BOP change isn't going to make dramatic effects around here, changes, because I think it's such a tight, twisty, technical circuit at Zolder, with as many cars as we're going to have on the track as well. It's going to be very hard to get that clean lap, and look at that, Fisher is gone faster with a 1:27.7.
Yep, absolutely, Steve. I was wondering when Gert Fischer is going to wake up and do something amazing, and by 5 thousandths of a second takes pole with a 1:27.700.
Yeah, so that BMW isn't really... It's not much slower, is it? It's still setting the track alight. It's still putting the car on the top of that timing tower, and albeit by 0.005 of a second, the gap, as I said, could get closer. It just did. Oscar, he's only 2/10 for round numbers off in 3rd place as well. So those three up at the top, Fischer, Seville, Sandberg, they're really sort of just setting the benchmark at the moment, all within 2/10 of each other. And then you go down to Clements, who's sort of more or less half a second back in 4th. So definitely the top three at the moment are just putting a little bit of a gap between themselves and the rest of the field.
Absolutely, and unless Jonathan still is able to improve his time a little bit more, that team name, Turn 1 Annoyance of Gert Fischer, is going to hold that pole position, and that is definitely going to be an annoyance for Seville, who was probably hoping to carry the pole position and run off into the lead as he did last week at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at Solberg at the moment. Switch the camera to him because he's currently 3/10 up on his best lap, so he could potentially get into that into third place anyway. Maybe if he can carry that speed around and keep that time. And he's doing a pretty good job. He's trying hard, although he has lost a tenth there as we saw him kicking up some dirt and just maybe taking a little bit too much over the curbs and onto the grass. But he's coming into the final chicane now, and he's gained a little bit. He's gained that tenth back in the braking zone, and he's now 3/10 up. Let's see what we can do as he carries it over the line. Definitely, there we go, P4, so that's a great improvement for him. Puts him on the second row of the grid, so he's up there with Oscar, locking out that second row, and they can really sort of put on an attack from there. So that's great qualifying from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like the turn one cars, they're pulling off and returning to pits, so that the session can tick over properly, and hopefully we'll have full pit wall live for you. I know that was a minor issue we had last week, but we should hopefully have that sorted out for everyone. And we'll just take one really quick moment again to have a quick shout out of the sponsors. So Team Turn 1 providing the YouTube channel, Simsport Solutions providing all the lovely camera action, simracing.gp, the people behind the racing service this evening, JCT 600, Exiled Racing Community, and finally Bunatix. When Turn 1 isn't live and Bunatix is, go show him a little bit of love. And also, good evening to everyone in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering, do you think, Celine, it's worth a chat with Oscar at the minute now we've just sort of finished that qualifying, see if he's happy with what he's achieved there?
Yeah, let's break out those let's break out the live pictures and shove a microphone into Oscar's car. So, and starting in third place, first of the two on the front row, and 3 out of 4 cars beginning in the top 4 for turn 1. Oscar Sandberg, welcome to the commentary booth.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
So, how are we feeling about 3 out of 4 of the first 4 cars being turn 1?
Yeah, so I have to say I have been focusing on my own result and on my own preparation. So I haven't really seen the result list yet, but I see that I'm myself P3, and I see that Gert is in front of me, and of course I'm very proud of that we have almost locked out. We are actually P1, P3, 4, 5, 6, so on the grid, so it looks very good for the race. I just hope that we all from turn 1 can keep away from each other, and that we all survive the first lap without any issues.
For the race, is there any personal strategies, team strategies possibly at play? Try to maybe contain Seville, since he's kind of in amongst the group of you, to try and have the best results either individually or for turn 1? Or is it just kind of there's 2 races and you only have 30 minutes to make things happen, so it's just kind of let the chips fall where they do?
I think the biggest problem or the biggest issue for us is that Seville is fucking fast. I can say it that way. So I think our strategy need to be that we keep away from each other, that we don't hit each other, touch each other, and then we need to let the race go, to be honest. We know that we have good pace in our BMWs and the one McLaren. We know we have the pace for being up there, so we just need to be smart and doing correct. Get a lot of points, it's very important, and and then finish the race on the top.
Well, thanks very much for joining us in the commentary booth, Oscar. We'll let you go so you can focus on getting started, and we'll begin doing our Martin Brundle style grid walk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll begin our grid walk as you're seeing the camera start panning through the cars, and thankfully we don't have a imposter Malfoy to start giving us issues. So the lineup will go as follows. We have Gert Fischer starting the race on pole, and that's for both races because qualifying sets the positions for both. Next to him, Jonathan Seville, third place, Oscar Sandberg, and next to Turman teammate Troel Solberg, John Clemens in fifth. Sixth, previous season runner-up Anders Edmondson starting in sixth, Monty Wilson seventh, Kieran Pendergast new starting this race, P8, Lucas Weiss in ninth, Thomas Morant 10th, Marcus Hegel in 11th, Werner Marquez in P12, 13 David Oak, and Josh Thompson in P14, Miles Dixon P15, next John Cheel in 16th, Francesco Lem in P17, Michael Hutchinson P18, 19th Chris Stevenson, Henry Handy P20, Jonathan Marsh P21, James Sheridan P22, 23 is Martin Bryant, 24 Stavros Konstantinidis, Kyle Daffron 25th, 26th is AJ Jones, 27th Brandon Chauvier, pardon me if I'm butchering that, Jack Taylor in P28, 29 Tom Smith, Adam Gardner in 30th, Natalie Lee 31st, Philip Verk in 32nd, 33 Simone Capelli, Andy Purcell in 34, 35 Julio Bayecki, Tristan Ferguson P36, Carl Smith 37, John Dowling in 38th, 39 Marcus Lister, and rounding out the very back starting with holding the wooden spoon, Andy Booth. Come on Andy, let's get that let out.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy Booth in prime position to capitalise on any mistakes ahead, shall we say, but absolutely awesome to see such a packed grid of talent, all these GT3 cars out there ready to give us a good race this evening. And oh boy, what a race it's going to be around here. I mean, the opening laps with all those cars, I'm just thinking by the time they get round to the chicane, hopefully they've sort of sorted themselves out, but that first chicane does create a bottleneck in the opening laps when there are so many cars on the grid, so it's going to be important about keeping your nose clean. Very important, obviously 30-minute races, so there's no time really to recover if they make any mistakes. They're going to have to, go for it. It's a sprint race in every aspect, 30 minutes, but if they make a mistake, it's going to potentially ruin the race. There is no recovery time in a 30-minute race with so many cars on the grid, is there?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to kind of have this very tempered aggression is probably the best way to put it. You need to want to actually make moves and be opportunistic when you can, but obviously you push a little too hard, especially with Zolder being so narrow, and as they're just passing one of the more infamous of the grab-full traps, just running a little bit wide, maybe getting a little too greedy with those track limits, or with those curbs, especially with the giant sausages, that can easily upset the car. And here, as their field is approaching the first chicane on the formation lap, this is one of those places where you can definitely potentially make a move, get close to somebody, but at the same time you get too greedy with those curves, your car's facing the wrong way, and you just have to hope that there's enough of a gap for you to rejoin and maybe get back to where you were. But with so many cars in this field, a field of 40 total cars, that's going to be a tall order if you make even the tiniest of mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not expecting, as I understand it, we're not expecting any pit stops this evening, so basically it is a lights to flag race in both race 1 and race 2. But like Celine says, it's going to have to be really controlled aggression. It's going to have to be a definite move. You're going to have to move with confidence. If you're going to send it up the inside of somebody, you're going to have to make sure you can complete that move, because any sort of disasters or anything, it's all about racecraft this evening, and it's more important than normal. Racecraft is always there, it's always important, but tonight more so than ever, because the awareness you're going to have with all these cars around you as well. We just see it actually on the warm-up lap there. One of the BMWs has just gone into the barriers, which is really unfortunate to see. But
over-aggressive warming of tyres.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also easy to do. Even on the warm-up lap, there's very little space to do anything, because we see the cars going 2 by 2. So I'm going to let you take over now, Celine, because I'm sure you'll do the start so much better than I will.
It says the cars are about to approach the timing line, as the great Darrell Waltrip would say, boogity cubed. That's for you, AJ. As the green flag flies and the session is underway, Gert Fischer maybe doing a little bit of strategic positioning as Phil tries to make the move around the outside. Looks like he's got it done for the moment, maybe getting a little bit, getting a much better start than Fischer. As looks like most of the field seems to be coming through okay. We're not seeing any yellow flags yet, although it looks like everyone's still managing to jockey for position, but everyone's being smart on that first lap to not get too aggressive and risk binning your race as soon as it gets underway. But impressive start by Seville, or getting the initial jump on Fischer, although it looks like Gert's trying to make that comeback, forcing them too wide into the second chicane. Steady on, lads. Oh, and a little bit of an overcooking it from Seville, and Gert's back in front with Oscar Sandberg and Truls Solberg right behind, smelling some perhaps some blood in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Seville just over-defended there into the chicane, brakes a little bit deep, got front wheel on the curb and just jumped deep, but they're side by side as Sandberg trying to make a move but couldn't quite do it. Now he's furiously flashing the lights. He's really feeling like there's a move on there, but the two cars are coming, the two BMWs, or turn one BMWs almost getting side by side, but Oscar just really putting the pressure on Seville, and I think Seville's just been rattled a little bit by that first lap there, and he's cost himself that move. I think Fischer just put him under enough pressure into that first chicane to cause that mistake, and he didn't need a second invitation to take the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with those Zolder chicanes, is if you do get somebody into a situation where it's 2x2, if they especially try to hold on to that lead and you have the superior position, they can so easily overcook it in there. And I know from a more female racers race, just even if you have the best positioning, and everything's right there, it's so easy for either you as the driver attempting to overtake or the driver trying to defend. It's so easy to just have like the tiniest of mistakes and it's all over.
Yeah, just seen a Porsche, the 101 there, of just rejoining the track. I'm not quite sure what happened to send him off the track in the first place, but managed to rejoin relatively cleanly there, but definitely made contact with the wall, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any pit stops come from that. But John Clements, he was certainly trying to make a move earlier on in the lap on Solberg, but he's just dropped back a little bit at the moment, and he's going to start coming under pressure from the BMW behind, the 72 BMW. So he's the meat in the sandwich with those two BMWs at the minute, but it's looking like Sandberg and Solberg are as close as ever together, and Fischer and Seville are just maybe starting to pull away a little bit.
Yeah, there's the P1 and 2 are starting to pull just a little bit of a gap, or possibly that Truls and Oscar have a little bit of strategy in mind to try and use each other to pull each other along, and maybe possibly even use Fischer to try even back Seville into them. But we'll see how that goes. It'll look like Solberg has made the move on Oscar Sandberg for P3. Possibly the Truls has got just having a little bit of more pace here in the early stages, and turn one cars just figured, you know what, let's swap positions, because it makes more sense to use the one with the pace to actually pull the other one along.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes no sense. Maybe Solberg, like you say, just decided to let him go, so they're not fighting, so they can concentrate on moving forward. But talking about moving forward, Solberg was half a second faster than Fischer on lap 2, so he's definitely managed to regroup, and he's closed the gap back down again, and he's certainly got the pace on Fischer according to the timing screens at the moment. Whether there's enough pace differential there for him to be able to put an attack in and maybe get that lead back, we will have to see, but he's got 25 minutes just over to do that. As I said, don't forget this is a 30-minute race as opposed to the normal sort of 60-minute races, so it's all or nothing. These guys are going to be going hammer and tong for the next 25 minutes to gain every position possible. But look at Solberg pulling a gap out now on Sandberg. It's definitely the right decision to let him go through, if that indeed was a decision, but he's moving forward, and he's got the pace to go with those two guys at the front, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Solberg's definitely managed to either got the car set up right or just having the better start, having the more pace and confidence early on. Although it looks like now Fischer and Seville just like I was saying last week, Lewis versus Max just so far trading fastest laps, pulling out an interval, and pretty much just running away with it.
Yeah, for sure, they're getting into the rhythm, and it doesn't take these chaps long, does it? They're a couple of laps in and they're already setting some reasonably fast times, and certainly very much faster than anybody else, a good 6/10 faster than P3 at least, if not 7/10 faster. So they are pulling away. They'll be it's pretty good. They'll be Seville will be upset to have lost the lead, but at the moment, by not battling, they're allowing each other to get away from the rest of the field, and as long as Seville can stay on the back of Fischer, which I think he can, then there is going to be that opportunity for a battle in the closing stages. So Seville, I think, will just very much have in mind to keep the pressure on Fischer and stay in touch with him.
Yeah, absolutely. As we saw a couple of times there, Seville just absolutely manhandling that car over some of the curbs, and obviously the BMW probably with that front engine placement and a bit of a bigger, longer wheelbase car, although it's the McLaren is not exactly short in the wheelbase department. BMW is probably able to take some of those rough curbs and sausages a little bit better than the McLaren, but at least as far as what we're seeing from Seville, it's definitely not showing any lack of bravery over those curbs. But as someone who's flung a Ferrari over them, if you're able to be brave and you know how to pull it off, it can definitely happen. As we now see Monty Wilson putting a lot of pressure on the back of Anders Edmondson for the 6th position. It's just with things being so tight, it's really, really challenging to just get that move done. As Monty's just going all over the track limits, and even doing a little bit of groundskeeping there to just try and put Edmondson under as much pressure as he can.
Yeah, the track limits here, Celine, as you know from that hot lap he did, they are so tight, aren't they? You've got to be pinpoint accurate with your lines through these corners, because obviously one corner leads into another, and if you're a fraction offline, there's not a lot of room to recover without lifting off the throttle, and that's the last thing these guys want to do tonight. And we saw that BMW just running a little bit wide, which cost him some time, but Wilson is very much looking for that P6 at the moment. He's crossed the line just 3/10 back, and he's certainly applying the pressure, but Edmondson is just soaking up that pressure at the moment and not really being affected by it. He's driving his lines, he's not defending at all at this moment, which is the fastest way around the track. The minute you start defending, then that does cost you time and puts you under even more pressure. And up ahead, everything seems to be settling out a little bit. We've got Clements still in there, 4/10 back from Sandberg, who is at 1.3 seconds further back from Solberg, who is 2.3 back from Seville. And Seville now, interestingly, 8/10 off Fischer. I think that gap is going up and down by a tenth or two each lap. Like you said earlier, they are trading lap times, but definitely the gaps have opened up just a little bit to give everybody a time to, I won't say relax, but they can settle into their own rhythms and put their lap times in.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're not particularly willing to battle right now and trying to battle for even a full 30 minutes, that's going to be pretty tough. As we move back a little further into the pack now, the battle for P20 between James Sheridan and AJ Jones. Oh, as we see Francisco Lem, it looks like he's in a tire barrier, still facing the right way. Maybe perhaps there'll be a safe opportunity for him to have a rejoin. But down the order a little bit, possibly having an off or a small incident. Stavros Konstantinidis, he started much higher than he is right now, so perhaps unwitting recipient, or possibly involved with the Porsche that we saw off earlier. But, Stavros will not be particularly happy being that far back in the field again this week.
Yeah, absolutely, and
Oh,
Bentley
it's-
there and just tagged the back of that
Yeah.
McLaren on the way through there, and really unfortunate that Sheridan just in that Bentley got a little bit more corner speed and just misjudged the overtake ever so slightly as the McLaren was running out wide, tagged the back corner. Not too much damage, I don't think, to be picked up there, but the McLaren did lose track position to at least one car and lost a little bit of time, and will have put a bit of extra heat into those tyres, but still in 21st position and still circulating, I think, without any damage.
Yeah, it looked like there was just a little bit of a tap. I don't know if the stewards are going to want to have a look at that. They may do, because looked like it was front end to quarter panel, but we're not the steward's office, so we'll see how that goes. Oh, and Constantinides right back at it.
Yeah, it looked like, I think. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Amazing run into that chicane.
Yeah, I think Tom Smith actually gave that position back. He slowed up and he gave the position back. Great sportsmanship there from Smith, who realised his mistake and has let the McLaren back through. So hopefully the stewards will take that into account if they do look at the incident.
Yeah, definitely. That's some good sportsmanship there from Tom Smith, and giving Stavros a little bit of an "I'm sorry" flash. Just say, that was my bad, but we'll have it at it again if you don't mind. We're now moving back up front. Oscar Sandberg in P4 right now. Not under too much threat from Clements in McLaren, but doesn't look like John's falling back by any stretch of the imagination, as we see Oscar take the big bite out of the curbs on the left-hand side there on the first chicane. As we're moving back now, we see P18, John Cheel, and he's looking to perhaps make a move on Michael Hutchinson for the 17th spots. Two of them are really close together, and same as James Sheraton and AJ Jones are right next to each other. A defensive line from AJ, and looks like AJ's going to hold on to that position at least for the next little while, as Sheridan maybe taking a little bit too much liberties there with that chicane. Again, you guys really got to be careful of those track limits, because it's so easy. You think, oh, I can take just a little more, just a little more, just a little more, and then eventually you start getting those track warnings, especially if you're getting positive delta, and maybe even you'll get yourself a warning and possibly even a protest if the driver who is past thinks that maybe they just took one too many liberties with those track limits.
Yeah, and this is Wise, who was in the thick of battles, I believe, last week at the Nürburgring. Celine, he's certainly putting P10 Hagel under pressure. The BMW on BMW here, but he's that gap is sort of going up between 1/10 and 3 4/10 on a lap, and just ahead Morant in the other Pulse Simsport car as well. So this is very much could be a three-way battle, as we just see Hagel running very wide there, and that's the danger of that chicane. Too much curb, throw him offline, and he was just a little bit wide off track, and he's lost position there.
Yep, that's that danger, especially with that first chicane. If you get a little too greedy with it, it can put you right on the grass, and you might even lose complete control of the car. Thankfully, Dixon not ending up facing the wrong way, but he did kind of lose out for that position. Now race up into the top 10, and he's going to be starting to chase after teammates. Thomas Morant for that 137 car in P9.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we should queue Oscar up for a quick chat, because he's got a good gap ahead and he's got a reasonable gap behind. It'd be nice to get at his opinion maybe on how the race is going so far on the start, and see if he did let Solberg through.
Yeah, let's see if we can raise Oscar while he's in the car. So, Oscar, mind if we bother you again?
Oh, good.
Alright, so we're joining Oscar Sandberg in the car. So it looks like your turn one teammate, Phil Solberg, maybe had a little bit of pace there on you in the opening laps. Was a strategic decision to let him go?
Yeah, what should I say? I also did a mistake, but I see that Truls have better pace. I'm actually struggling a lot more with the car than I did earlier, because of the update who came that everyone know. And I feel that the stability in the rear that I had earlier is not there anymore. But okay, that is something that you have to deal with now on track. I think, to be honest, if I can keep this position to the finish line, I should be happy. I have some ideas for the next race that maybe can help. So yeah, I just try to survive this one.
Yeah, you mentioned the one thing that a lot of people are curious about with the new patch coming out today. Do you feel like the BMW has changed a lot since this morning, or is it perhaps just not feeling particularly confident with the setup as it stands right now?
Of course, now you're asking quite complicated questions while I'm driving, but that is just good practice for me. Of course, the aero bug that the M4 had was unbelievable. You could just put maximum wing on it and everything was fine. So that was perfect. Of course, now it's not like this anymore. Now you get this, say, the tip of the top of the aero. That means that, for example, if you're riding maybe a little too high car, things like this, then the car is somehow slipping up on the aero. And yeah, that is a new thing that is now, and some of us have had the opportunity to test more than others, and this we see in this race now at the moment. And it's just a general understanding of the setup. I don't really think the car have been worse, maybe just more logical, you can say. Say I've been driving the Bentley earlier and have some tips and trips in mind from the Bentley, and hopefully that these tips can help.
Well, thank you, Oscar, for joining us again in the commentary booth. We'll let you get back to racing and focusing on the last 13 minutes and a half left. So as we're now looking at third place, Zolder is looks like there's just naturally some gaps forming a little more so, although it seems like Lucas Weiss desperately wants that P9 as he's starting to pressure Thomas Moran even more, and John Clemens obviously starting to chase down Oscar Sandberg, who as he was saying was struggling a little bit with that car. It'd be interesting to see where things end up panning out with the minor changes that have been made to the BMW, although it sounds like perhaps maybe people who were just counting on a certain level of aero performance aren't quite getting what they had previously expected, although I don't personally foresee this car set having a sudden dip in popularity, because after all it is the new hotness, and even though there were tweaks after the initial release of the Ferrari Evo and the Mercedes Evo, they were still very popular cars even after they were properly adjusted to reality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the community of sim racers is split into several groups, isn't it? You've got the aliens who will make any car quick, and I very much believe Oscar is one of those guys. He'll get his head around the changes, and he will come back in race 2 probably a little bit quicker than he was in race 1. And you've got the other community that are always looking for any advantage with the fastest car they can get, and they will swap and change cars accordingly. And you've got the other part of the sim community that will drive the cars they enjoy, the ones they want to drive. But very much Oscar is learning that car in the race. John Clements is now putting him under a lot of pressure. That McLaren, though, I have to say, while we have been watching him, he's looking like he's on the very, very limit of just what is a bit of the ability of that car, of the grip levels, because he has stepped out a couple of times. He's lost the back end, he's had to correct. He's really pushing, and he's equally coming under pressure from the BMW behind as well. The gap is close behind for as well, so Clements can't really just concentrate on Sandberg ahead. He's got to look back in his mirrors and see where that other BMW is.
Yeah, absolutely. If you spend all your time tunnel visioning forward, you could find yourself easily becoming under pressure from behind, or conversely, if you end up driving and you looking in your mirrors, it's just so easy, especially with the track this tight as Zolder is, to just immediately have even touch a wheel on the grass. You don't necessarily have to have a full-on spin or lose control, and just that puts you under so much pressure, or even costing you multiple positions, just because it's a little bit Clements gives Oscar a little bit of a tap trying to get the run out of the final chicane and down the start-finish straight. Looks like Clements is not actually going to be able to get it done, although possibly might have decided perhaps I should hold back ever so slightly because that probably wasn't considered too friendly by Oscar Sandberg there.
That was a little bit cheeky from Clements there, wasn't it? He got a better exit out of that final corner, and he didn't seem to want to back out of it. He just pushed and pushed on the back of Sandberg there, causing him to almost go sideways. But thankfully, he didn't. He collected it up. But what it did do, it allowed Edmondson to get through and pick up that P4 at the moment. So I would imagine Sandberg is pretty furious inside that cockpit, and I think Clements will have backed out of that move and given him the position back. But that's brought Wilson right into this battle now, so we've got 4 cars battling for what is P4 with just under 10 minutes of the race left to go, so it's getting very, very close up there.
Yeah, absolutely. This pack is definitely the one to watch, since it seems like the leaders have all just kind of carved out their own separate little niche for positions 1, 2, and 3. But Edmondson up into P4, and he's pulling his turn 1 teammate along with Oscar Sandberg, and Clements obviously trying desperately to get up into that what he's hoping is 4th position. But as right now, just because of that little tap with Oscar, now that's seen him actually lose one with Edmondson moving past him, and could potentially drop even more with Monty Wilson right behind in yet another BMW.
Yeah, just going to cut to a replay now. Sorry, with Hagel, just seeing what happens to him at the chicane. I think he just the usual thing here. I think he just goes in nice and wide, turns in, bit of not enough for the first curve, too much of the second, and that just turned him around there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that second one. If you hit that one just a little bit too hard and to go maybe going a little bit too hot, if you can clear that first one, it means you're probably going to hit that second one way too hard, and it's just going to really upset, especially the rear of the car, and it just completely goes around and kicks you right to the inside. So, speaking of moves to the inside, looks like Monty Wilson's trying inside, outside, in whichever way you can go, and Clements is going from being on the attack just a couple of laps ago is now very much on the defensive, going into the hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, he's needed to look back, and he's looking back very much now as Sandberg's managed to regroup as well, and he's looking to close in on P4. He's got 7 minutes left to do it. Meanwhile, up at the front, Seville's got that gap. He's down to 7/10 at the moment. It was stretched out to around about a second or just over a few laps ago. Looks like Seville's maybe trying to move back in, although having said that, Fisher's last lap was a 1:28.6 compared to Seville's 1:29 flat, so Fisher still showing like he's got the pace at the front, Celine, and it almost looks like he's controlling that gap.
At this point, it's Fisher's probably got just enough breathing room that he can kind of feel like he can set the pace, take it easy, not have to push too hard, take any unnecessary risks, but also maintain enough speed, enough gap as we see a flying McLaren. Thankfully, Clements is able to hold it, although Monty Wilson's going to have a pretty good run coming into the next chicane, and possibly having a really good run down to the hairpin. But yeah, especially with cars like the McLaren, yes, it was affected, although not as much by the patch today. But if you launch the car, all the suction in the world from that under tray and diffuser is still going to break, and you're going to have a car flying through the air.
Yeah, absolutely, and then once it's in the air, that's absolutely no control whatsoever. You do need contact with the tarmac. You're not a pilot in these things, but Clements is, as I said earlier, he's pushing it, he's on the limit, and he's the one that looks the loosest out of all those cars in that group. He's the one that seems to be on the edge, on the limit, and and really pushing hard and working hard to be where he is now. He's pulled away a little bit for Wilson in the latter half of that lap, and interestingly closed right back up onto Sandberg again. So he's definitely strong in areas, you know, in the final part of this track. It just seems to be through the early parts that he has maybe lost a little bit time. It'd be interesting to see if he falls back towards Wilson now, and whether Wilson can capitalise if he does. But the man under pressure at this moment in time is very much Oscar Sandberg.
Yeah, it seems like the McLaren is really has a real advantage in that first sector where there's bigger, more sweeping corners that will tend to favour it, since that car was primarily developed at a track like Silverstone compared to a track like Zolder, where a lot of those corners are a lot slower, very, very tight, and require you know, a lot more sudden moves, whereas just that longer, more flowing section in that first sector just probably will suit the McLaren much more, where sectors 2 and 3 is probably just the way the BMW is built is just going to manage to handle that section just a little bit better than the McLaren.
Yeah, for sure, and Clement's doing a great job at the moment because he's putting Sandberg under pressure, but he's under all sorts of pressure from Wilson behind, and Wilson is now coming under pressure from Prendergast. So these guys are slowing each other up, albeit not by a lot, but in different areas of the track they are tripping up over each other, and they are bringing more cars into this battle. 4.5 minutes left to go, and there's none of these positions are certain, although Edmondson out front in P4 there, he's looking like he's getting a bit of a comfort zone there. He's got 1.2 seconds gap now, so that's fairly comfortable in racing terms, but one man that's definitely not comfortable is Sandberg in 5th place, with Clements right on the back of his bumper. And we saw Clements with a fantastic drive through that chicane last time, equally good this time, but I think Sandberg's drive through there was pretty good as well. Coming up towards the second chicane now, it's going to be out cutting the curbs and straight lining this as much as possible. Sandberg gets a good job there. Clements coming under pressure from Wilson behind. Wilson got a good drive through there, and he's now right on the back of that McLaren. It's whether he can get close enough, get a draft, and make a move in the braking zone towards the hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely. If you got room in that hairpin to possibly get up the inside and make that move, you definitely want to try and make it stick. Although Monty's not been quite able to get there with Clements, same as Clements not being able to quite get there with Sandberg. Although Kieran Pendergast is now thinking to himself, "Hey, I fancy a piece of this. I'm getting so close to it now that that could be as much as P4 or 5 if he's able to get a piece of the action and maybe make a few moves with 3 minutes left to go here in the race."
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the man at the back, he's not in the best position on the leaderboard, but he's certainly in a strong position on the track, because these guys battling hard up the front, like you say, if Clements and Sandberg were to come together, that's 2 positions gained instantly, and he's Wilson's in the same position there, you know, so this battle is far from over, and I think with the time ticking down now, these guys will start maybe throwing a little bit more caution to the wind, as we see there. Just, oh my word, Clements looked like he was going to get the best drive through there ever, but that second part of the chicane, as you pointed out several times there, just unsettled that McLaren, and he just had to correct the steering, and I guess he lost some traction and had to back out of the throttle, but managed to collect it all up. Really lightning quick reactions from Clements, as we've seen several times in this race so far, but it's cost him a little bit of time to Sandberg, and Wilson's right there ready to pounce and closing in the braking zone on that McLaren, but nothing really to split these guys now. Definitely these 3, you almost could say 5 cars for this battle, but this is awesome stuff. These have been pretty much from the lights out in these positions, battling away, giving us a fantastic race, but it's not over yet. But we are going to be coming round towards the final lap very soon.
With just minute 38 to go, 10 seconds above what some of the fastest laps are. Last lap we had Fisher do a 1:28.987, so the lap times are maybe such that we might get one this lap complete and possibly one more, depending if Fisher is maybe strategically trying to see if he can time that, but based on the current the current gap back to Seville, I think he's pretty confident to just do this and one more, not have to really upset things, and just clear that back marker there as you're seeing in the mini picture, and bring it home for a first race win. But on our main screen, we're seeing Monty really putting the pressure on Clements now. We just absolutely feeling like the opportunity's there, and now's the time to take it.
Yeah, for sure. They are going to have to battle for another lap. I feel confident now that Fisher's going to cross the line and give us one more lap of racing, and Clements will be, on one hand, he'll be glad there's another lap to maybe attack Sandberg, but he wouldn't want another lap to defend against Wilson, because Wilson's starting to look a little bit spicy behind him, and he's very much taking advantage of any bad exits that Clements gets. He's not needing a second invite to get right on the bumper of that McLaren and put him under pressure. But these guys are as close as they have been for several laps and most of this race, and hats off to Sandberg and Clements in particular, who have been pretty much nose to tail from the minute the lights went out, and they've been battling very hard as a pair here for the last 15-20 minutes, I would say. So this is it's going to be a big sigh of relief at the end of this race, and time to regroup for race 2 very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are just going to keep trying. Always looks like there's possibly a yellow flag on the circuit somewhere, although it looks like it's just into the first turn, so not too big of an issue, as we see Oscar trying to position himself to keep that McLaren behind him. It looks like Clements does have a good run, but that's also meant that Monty Wilson also has a good run. Could be a three-way fight here into the second chicane and down into the hairpin, because everyone behind Oscar is just going to have an incredible run heading down towards that hairpin. Right, as we move over to the leaders, as Fisher is now heading towards the final chicane to come across the line. Oh, steady on, lads. Looks like Monty Wilson's going to have to look for Clements, but he's not going to quite make the position. Fisher out of the final chicane, and he's going to cross the line in P1, followed right behind with Jonathan Seville for P1 and P2. And Phil Solberg comes across the line for P3. Andrew Samuelson P4. Looks like Oscar Sandberg's going to hold on to that position for P5. John Clements P6. Monty Wilson P7. Kieran Pendergast in P8, and shortly behind Thomas Moran, Lucas Weiss rounding out the top 10. And we have Oak Thompson, and then a little bit of a gap. Dixon crosses the line in P13, followed by Andy, and the winner in the AM class, Chris Stevenson, all the way down in P15, although it doesn't really matter. If you're first in class, you're still first in your class.
Yeah, absolutely great achievement. Just looking back now at we've got Sheridan in 17th, Hutchinson in 18th.
Yep. And that will round out the podium for the M class in the first race, and then followed by Marquez in 19th, and running out the top 20 is Stavros Konstantinidis, having to play a little bit of a recovery race. And P21, we have Francisco Lem, John Cheel, and Marsh seems to have had an added 30 seconds due to possibly running afoul of those track limits. A.J. Jones coming across in P24th, Andy Purcell 25, Tristan Ferguson 26th, and in P27 we have Simone Capelli, Kyle Daffern 28, 29 Tom Smith, 30th Andy Booth, Natalie Lee in 31st. Unfortunately, perhaps not having the best of races, but Andy Booth definitely was not wanting to hold on to that wooden spoon with a 10-place improvement. Adam Gartner in P32, 33 John Dowling, 34 Carl Smith, Mark Lister in 35th, and 36th Philip Verleck, and Jack Taylor 37th, 38 Franz Chauveler, and Julio Balecki in 39th, and unfortunately Martin Bryant will be holding the wooden spoon at the end of the first race in 40th position.
Wow, that was an awesome 30-minute spectacle there. Some good racing, but up at the front there, Fisher got into the lead, didn't he? And once he got past that mistake of Seville, he didn't really look too threatened at all. Managed to pull out a couple of tenths that then after a few laps turned into more like 8 tenths and then a second eventually, and the gap never looked like coming down too much, and Seville just brought it home in a very controlled second place. The real battle was basically for that P4, 5, 6 and 7 towards the end there. A couple of guys, Weiss was battling away for P9 with Morant. Never managed to get past him, but he gave him a good run for his money. But some great battles there, Selena. That was an absolute pleasure to watch and to commentate on.
Yep, and in just a few moments we're going to be doing something similar all over again for the second of the two 30-minute sprint races. So technically we are now over into round 3 of the championship, and we didn't have to wait long, but while we do wait for the next race to start, let's bring Oscar Sandberg back in. And Oscar, that was quite a battle to the end. Was that initial move by Clements seemed like maybe he was getting a little too greedy, giving you a few love taps?
Oh, but that is racing. You can say it that way. He tapped me, and that made the possibility for Anders to come by. So I'm happy for that one.
Yeah, it still definitely works out for the Turn 1 cars. So you mentioned during the race that we're looking at maybe some minor revisions for race number 2. To any clues you want to give the audience? Obviously, the rivals might be listening, but do you think maybe you've after that first 30 minutes you've figured out what's new with the BMW?
Yeah, so for me to drive at least was so the problem for me at least is that the car is quite unpredictable with the setup that we had in the update of 1.8.9 was the update. With this update, of course, you make a setup who have a lot of aero in the back, so you can push a lot into the corners, but you still have the grip in the rear. You can say problem here now is that it is not really like that. It is a little different. You have to drive maybe a little different. Of course, I try some tricks and tips. You can say I try not to make the front worse because the front axle was quite good. I try just to make the rear axle more predictive. You can say it that way. Maybe more grip in initial turn-in. Because the problem was very often that you turn in, everything feels okay, you go on throttle, and then the rear slips, and then you go off the throttle, and then you have to go on again, and then you lose a lot of time. So, but now, of course, we have other track conditions in this thing, and hopefully that we can get over and do all this again. Hopefully we have a clean start like we had earlier. I hope for that, and yeah, what should I say? It was a very good race for Turn 1. Seville snapped the podium place, of course, but I'm very happy to see Truls in P3, and also happy to see my teammate Anders striving for Turn 1 Norway here at the P4. Good that we get some good points with us, and yeah, we just need to have race 2 now as a clean run again, and hopefully no touching. We can have door-to-door racing. I love that, but spinning around makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to keep the racing as clean as possible, but not keep it spicy enough that it's interesting. So with about 3 minutes to go, we'll let you focus on the race and make any setup adjustments that you want. And good luck for race number 2.
Thank you. I wish all the other drivers also a very good race. I hope all the viewers are happy with the broadcast, and yeah, this is new for me too, to discuss something under the race. It's interesting.
That's definitely been the interesting one, although the last time I can recall those kinds of discussions mid-race would be IndyCar and NASCAR, so it's slowly making its way to Europe.
Very good.
All right, as we're now moving to the grid for race number 2 with about 2 minutes here to go, we won't necessarily be going and giving you another grid walk because the positions are basically the same as they were at the start of race number 1, and it's going to be Fisher and Seville, obviously, for the first 2 positions into turn 1, barring any sort of serious problems. But yeah, I mean, race 1 was just as I was saying, an absolute barn burner. So what are we going to see for round 2? Hopefully, or sorry, I should say round 3, since it is going to be the 3rd race of the championship. Are we going to see just an absolute stonking race number 3 for the series, or I don't know?
I think.
What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think. Obviously, race number 1 this evening was close. We saw some good battles. We saw people, which is typical of Zolder. We saw people stuck behind each other. There wasn't really anywhere for them to take advantage and make some moves, and that is, as I said, that is very typical of Zolder. It is very difficult to overtake around here, but it also has shown people where their opponents are strong and where potentially there are any weaknesses, which they've got now another 30 minutes to try and exploit and try and unlock that door to any positions ahead of them. So I think we will see people maybe, I won't say being more aggressive, but maybe being more assertive, trying to be more confident, and maybe just trying to put that bit more pressure on the guys. They've all got a good race 1 result under them now, and as we move to what is round 3 of the championship, they will certainly be looking not to hang around, and they'll want to try and, like we say, put the guys under pressure and achieve the best finishing position they can this evening. So it's I think we'll see a tighter race maybe in race 2.
Yeah, there's definitely a possibility that we're going to see a lot closer racing. People who maybe they realized they were getting a little too aggressive or taking one too many liberties. Now they're going to find themselves in a situation where maybe they need to cool it down a little bit, or people who maybe were caught up in a little bit of incidents might be deciding, you know what, I got caught up. It's time for me to actually try and making some moves rather than being the bystanders. So there's certainly a possibility that those who had a rough first race, they're going to be looking at this next race here as a possible chance of let's have some redemption here in this next round.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, the start is very, very important. Seville won't want to make any mistakes if he does manage to get away. And get the jump into the opening corners and get into the lead of this race. He won't want to repeat his race 1 mistake, because it was just that one little mistake where he over defended into the second chicane. And when I say over defended, it's a lot more talent than I ever will have, but he just braked that little bit too deep, which caused him to hit one of the curbs, lost a little bit of direction, and too deep into the corner, and it cost him the lead, and he never got a chance to get it back. So he will look to gain any advantage off the start, and any advantage he does manage to gain, he will certainly look not to throw it away again, because that 1 split second cost him the race win, I believe, there.
Absolutely, that one ever so slightly overcooking it and letting Fisher have that opportunity. I think he's probably going to be kicking himself for that a little bit, and we'll be looking to perhaps turn things around and be in P1 for the end of race number 2. Although Fisher is probably looking at that, or thinking about that restart and saying, you know what, I got to be ready for it, especially with the Bentley having a little bit of a turbo lag reaction. He's going to be thinking, okay, I want to be getting both victories, and I can't let Seville have the jump on me.
Yeah, for sure, it works both ways. Fisher will be thinking, well, I don't want to give this pole position away. It has to be said that Zolder, as much as it's difficult to overtake around here, on the start, the 2 cars on that front row, it doesn't matter whether you're in pole position or not. I think P2 man's got every advantage, just as much advantage, and he's almost got a better opportunity. If he can get into turn 1 and stay on the outside of you, it turns into the inside for the next corner, next 2 corners, giving him the advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Fisher has the best position in turn 1 for defense, but if it goes side by side, eventually the advantage does swing to Jonathan in Jonathan Seville's direction. As the cars are now approaching the timing line, green flag is about to go, and they're underway. Looks like it's a much more even start. Although Seville definitely trying it again around the outside. He's got a little bit more real estate. Fisher trying to force him a little bit wide. A little bit of door banging going through the right-hander, and looks like there's some cars round in the back, although Seville has just using that McLaren's ability in sweeping corners to his advantage, although the gap is not quite as big as it was in round one. Looks like Sandberg's made it around in for P3, but it seems like right behind it, looks like absolute chaos just broke out.
Yeah, I believe Solberg got turned around going into turn 2, and he was one of the victims of an opening lap calamity there. But yeah, it just looks like Seville did exactly what I said was the opportunity for the P2 man. Managed to hang it round the outside in turn 1, which turned into the inside, and he's got that move done on Fisher, so he's not going to want to give that move away. And we're just looking now here at Clements, who's just trying that little bit harder, it has to be said at the moment, on Sandberg for P3, and he's putting Sandberg under a lot of pressure right at the start of this race, and he's resuming where they left off, but a little bit higher up the field.
Absolutely, they're getting right back to where they started, and seems like Clements is desperately looking to still make that pass, and wants a crack at the podium. Although it would seem that at least a few cars maybe have decided to just park it up already. With looks like at least the 101 car is sitting in the pit lane with yellow permanently stuck on them, so it seems that already we've had a few casualties here of the second race this evening.
Yeah, for sure, and there is Solberg and Clements there side by side through that first chicane, and that's never going to work. Someone's going to have to give, and unfortunately, sorry, I said Sandberg, but Clements has got that P3, really charged it through there, and Sandberg couldn't really defend, because if he had hit that chicane at race pace, I think the line he was on, he would have had an incident and been probably off the track. But he's regrouped, he's in 4th place, Clements up to P3. Can he close those guys ahead down? He showed some good pace in practice and qualifying in Clements, but I'm not sure he's got consistent race pace to close it down unless those guys up ahead start battling.
Yeah, definitely with that pass into the chicane, I'm kind of wondering that just the way he got the absolute rocket, and that wonder if maybe there was a few liberties taken there with that curve on the right-hand side. Maybe might have cost himself a warning, and possibly the stewards may want to have a quick look-see just to make sure everything was above board there with that pass, and not excessive use of the track limits. Although it looks like we've got some incidents going on at the back. Miles Dixon running slow, and minor contact between BMW and I believe that was McLaren of Natalie Lee. Although they're still working their way around, is Fisher is now trying to close back in on Jonathan Seville, as we see Stefos Stantinides currently in P21 or 22, trying to work his way back up through the field.
Yeah, for sure, Fisher now putting some pressure on Seville. He's certainly not let Seville get away, and they showed in race 1 these two guys were pretty evenly matched. So it'll be interesting now with the roles reversed. Will Fisher be able to keep that pressure on? Will he be able to stay in touch with Seville? And will he be able to force a mistake like he did in the first race? That's what it takes for these guys, isn't it, Celine? They don't have a pace differential that they can actually just pull off an overtake on outright pace. It usually needs one of them to make a mistake to allow the other one an advantage.
Yeah, it's at this point it's now a game of like, can you either catch somebody while they're looking in their mirrors, or maybe they stop looking in their mirrors, and that's when you can make the move, or at the very least maybe get them to misjudge the braking zone ever so slightly, or get on the throttle a touch too soon and get some wheel spin. But either way, it's just very much psychological warfare, trying to get in each other's head and try and make that move. As we now move back to Michael Hutchinson, currently running in P15, and is trying to perhaps get that 14th overall on Tom Smith.
Yes, Miles Dixon trying to come back through the field. We saw him running a little bit slower a bit earlier on. He'd had an issue on the last lap, I think, but he's obviously now in a recovery position. I can just see on the leaderboard there as well, Marcus Hagel, he's in P30, so he's obviously had an issue in the opening laps as well and being held up. But there's a few guys out of position. We've got Sheridan here in P24 looking to make a move on into P23. There's a few battles going on at the moment up and down the field, and it's quite hard to know where to look, but the battle up ahead at the moment is a non-starter with Seville and Fisher, as the gap is just opened out a little bit. It's over half a second now, so Fisher's looking like at the moment he's struggling with the early race pace to keep hold of the back of Seville.
Yes, it seems like kind of the inverse of what happened in the previous race, with Fisher managing to pull out a little bit of a gap on Seville in the first race, whereas now it seems like Seville's managed to swing the momentum in his favor and pull out a small gap on Fisher. But there's also the possibility that after the starting phase is done, sit back, see what everyone's doing, save your tires a little bit, see where the other guy maybe they're having some minor mistakes, maybe they're stronger or weaker in certain places, and as we're saying, that McLaren seems to really suit the first sector, and Fisher is just going to say, you know what, I can sit back and watch and wait and see where I can possibly time an opportunity for sectors 2 and 3.
Let's just have a look at the start now, because I think the start does warrant a watch, because I think there was a few incidents, and I think we need to be watching Solberg here, because I think he was involved and got I don't know if it was his fault or whether he just got turned around, but definitely he was a victim of it, and we saw a few cars coming together. And let's just watch now.
Yeah, it seems like maybe either Clements was maybe a little bit ahead in the grid box, as Solberg is trying to just hold the inside and gets sideswiped, and then it all kicks off with Pendergast getting hit, Solberg getting tapped multiple times, cars facing the wrong way, both pulse guys off, and it just Constantine out right out of proportion. So a lot of cars possibly getting an advantage, surviving the carnage, but at the same time, a number of cars unfortunately just getting caught up with all of those cars just going every direction, and the ensuing melee.
Yeah, for sure. It's always difficult in the opening laps. There, you not a lot of room to go anywhere, as it were, and it's always leads to contact. And when it comes to rejoin as well, that early on in the race, you usually have to wait such a long time to join safely, without causing anyone else any problems, and you ultimately drop lots of positions.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen just in the first race, it's so easy to just go ever so slightly wide, and when you think you've got a real run on somebody, just the wheel dipping into the grass for just that fraction of a section, that you've lost all of that momentum in that run, because unlike other tracks where you have the kind of the AstroTurf or concrete runoff area, at Zolder it's either grass or gravel if you go just a little bit too far.
Yeah, for sure. And it's looking like Seville. I mean, talking about the leaders, let's have a look at them now. Because Seville is really stretching his legs, Celine. He's 2.3 seconds up the road. We never saw a gap like that in race 1, but now Seville's got clear track in front of him, and he's got away. He's out of the pressure zone, as it were, from Fisher. He's really stretching his legs, and he's lapping 2-3 tenths a lap faster, and but it's giving him a great advantage, as we see the rest of the field coming round that corner there of Clements and Sandberg in the distance. But definitely Seville very clear up the road, with Fisher in a clear second place, and then it's John Clements in third. Yeah,
this race seems like this one's playing much more into the hands of Seville and probably running a lot more according to plan for what he wanted. But with the track temperature being so much lower, there's a good chance that maybe Seville was thinking of or really put together some minor setup adjustments to really suit this round two so that he could push right from the beginning and get those tires switched on immediately. Does that maybe mean he's going to burn them up a little too fast? Well, only time will tell, but as we're seeing things moving and shaking out as we go through the field, it seems that Konstantinidis has managed to make up a few more positions, starting a little further back than he wanted to, but he's definitely a man on the mission. He's got a couple of BMWs behind him, and there's even a little more contact into that hairpin. But it seems like no serious change of position or anything there. Perhaps somebody realizing that they went a little bit too hot and just not bothering to force the issue because that would draw some negative attention from the stewards.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But some really good battles going on all the same. We are seeing a few guys running closer together at the moment in the midfield, but the guys up at the front opposite to race one, they are starting to spread out a little bit, and it is very much just Sandberg that's under. He's putting Clements under a little bit of pressure, but Wilson keeps closing that gap to him as well up front. So it's the same three protagonists up there, relatively close together, but disappointingly for a spectator's point of view, Seville's running away with it up at the front, and he's stretching that lead out even further on the last lap as well. He was another 4/10 quicker on that last lap, so setting the fastest lap of the race, which was more or less a 1:28 flat, so he's on the equivalent pace of race one, and the difference is he's got that lead, and he's going to protect it, and he's building a gap already.
Yes, as I was saying earlier, it seems like the complete inverse of the first race, whereas it seemed like everything was just going according to plan for Fischer, whereas everything's going according to plan for Seville, although it looks like according to the time screen, Gardner now has a drive-through, I'm guessing for track limits because it's so easy to run afoul of them here, as Natalie Lee trying to again battle her way up and not having the best of qualifying and really trying to recover. But we know that McLaren is still got a decent amount of strength around here, especially in that first sector, so she's going to be hoping to pass the old grey mare that is the Bentley. That's still seems to have legs though, because it's still a fairly popular car to use, even though now it's well, I mean, when you think about it, it's only 4 years old, and that's not super long for a car, but in the world of GT3 racing, that's an eternity. That's old-timer now.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at these cars; they are pushing them to the limit. They're just losing a little bit of traction. We've seen a few cars squirreling around all over the place, and this is where they're battling in the 20th, 24th, 25th, 26th position. They're pushing every little bit as hard as anybody ahead of them. It's a battle wherever you are in this on the racetrack, and these guys and girls in the middle of the field are pushing each other every bit as hard as they are if they were battling for the front position. But we're looking at Miles Dixon now on the back of Natalie Lee. He's going to look to make a move into the hairpin. He's setting the car up, but Natalie Lee nice and late on the brakes. That was easy for me to say, but very, very, very late on the brakes, and managed to defend that position and never even gave Miles Dixon a look in there. And I think Miles set that move up, and he showed his hand far too soon. I think there it just gave Natalie Lee a chance to really assess what she was doing, and Miles taking too much curb there again, and just getting that car unsettled a little bit and losing some drive out of that corner, so he's not in a position to attack again this time round.
Yeah, and with things moving into the first sector now with this battle, this is definitely playing into the McLaren's hands anyway. So Miles kind of possibly had his opportunity there, but didn't have quite enough real estate reeled in, and now not only wasn't able to make the move, but it telegraphed to Natalie, and she knew just how to immediately close the door and keep that position hers. She's basically the engine of a pulse train, right now. Although my teammate coming up for the first endurance round, Natalie, just putting on a pretty good showcase of good positioning, good defending, and the 3 R's around here are just racecraft, racecraft, racecraft. And even though that BMW is right on the bumper, I don't imagine Natalie is going to make it easy for Miles at all. And he's got the inside line now, but Natalie's going to have drive, maybe switchback is due. No, looks like Miles is just going to manage to get it done, at least for this lap.
Yeah, he was that little bit closer there, and it allowed him to get his nose in the braking zone, which forced Natalie to stay out wide. She couldn't turn in on the apex, and yeah, he got that job done, and it was a great move from Miles. He set that one up. Natalie coming straight away. She's under pressure now again from another Pulse car, I believe it is. So she's certainly earning her money this evening. She's really having to work for that position, and she's, as you said, great positioning of the car. She's defending very, very well, and she's not really making it easy for anybody to get past, and she's showing great pace tonight.
Yeah, definitely a really good showing of showcase of defending, although I'm beginning to wonder now with it looks like maybe there's a speed deficit to that McLaren. I wonder if maybe it got tagged at some point and we just didn't happen to catch it on camera, because it seems like it's just not quite able to hold on, or perhaps not to sell Miles Dixon short, maybe he got caught up in some of the earlier dramas and now is really trying to make a recovery drive. Although, especially given the class difference, it's probably a case of Miles really just wants to get a move on now with 13 minutes left to go in the race.
Yeah, for sure. He's back into his favourite spot again there, and again he gets the nose in just enough to stop the driver turning in on the apex, and that's going to be move complete, because I think he's got the drive there, although this time it's not quite as convincing as it was when he took Natalie Lee in the Bentley. He's going to stay on the inside, and a bit of contact there. Bentley saying, I'm still here, you can't turn in, but he's going to be hip checked, and he's out wide for the second part, and Miles Dixon completes that move. But great defence from the Bentley, and he tried into the final chicane, but just wasn't close enough there. And Miles Dixon managed to go around the outside of the first part for the inside of the second, and job done, move complete.
Yeah, definitely, and that Bentley not wanting to give any quarter, and this is one of the few tracks where the Bentley is still really strong, because it can just absolutely eat those curbs, and with its lightweight and excellent braking performance, it can just for a vehicle that size, it has some pretty good dance moves. As all the cars now, just everyone is so busy trying to stay with each other that they're all running wide and kicking up a little bit of dust. Bentley tries to really clatter those curbs. As it's, at this point, with the Bentleys being on the move, anyone here for a bit of land dotting?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're really making it difficult for each other, and they're not really giving each other any spare freedom on the track. Not that there is an awful lot around Zolder, as we said earlier. It is very, very tight. You've got to be so precise. But when you've got another GT3 car trying to make room for itself and open the door, it all gets a little bit congested, and it becomes very easy to make a mistake. But they've just sorted themselves out a little bit again. Natalie Lee still showing well in P23 at the moment, but it looks like she's going to be coming under some pressure again very soon from some more Pulse cars. As you're quite right, I think maybe just a little bit of pace differential there. She just lights up the rear end there and just gets a little bit loose on the exit of the final corner, which is going to cost her a little bit, and she's driving defensive into turn 1, but I think she's got the job done. She's defended, as long as it doesn't compromise her exit speed here. As well, actually the BMW behind really lights up the back end and lost a lot of traction and a lot of ground there, and actually lost a position to the Bentley as well. So now Natalie Lee is defending not from a BMW, but there's a Bentley in the mirrors.
Yeah, it looks like although 3 of those cars are Pulse guys, and they're having their own little squabbles as Natalie run wide. But it seems like everyone is now, with all the squabbling, everyone's running a little bit wide. So no big disadvantages. The teammates come together a little bit, and that puts AJ Jones into it 3 wide as people are doing a bit of groundskeeping and lawn mowing. But yeah, the number 69 car is definitely being opportunistic and making up a couple of positions while the Pulse guys have a little bit of a teammate squabble.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely wouldn't want to sit in on that team meeting at the debrief at the end of this race, because that's been some more than close battling, I would say. A little bit of door handle rubbing there, and it's not what you want really from teammates, because all that's doing is obviously creating damage to your own car potentially, but it's also slowing you down and losing ground, as we saw. But just a little bit further ahead, Miles Dixon still making progress, P21 at the moment, and looking to move forward, and he does indeed, and he's just going to take that 20th position there by the looks of it, and he's continuing his climb back up the field, which is really good to see. You know, he's battling hard, he's racing fair, and he's racing clean, but he's putting some good moves in. A little bit of rubbing here and there, but he's having to really force the door open, and he's getting it done. He's been very decisive when he is sending it. He's making the move clear, and he's not sending it on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah, and with him being primarily around the AM cars, a lot of them are probably thinking just let the Pro Class car go so that they can run their own race and not risk tangling on a position that or ruining the race on a position that even though it is for overall and it is for pride and they're all racers and not wanting to concede anything, it's probably smarter just to let the pro guy go so they're not doing anything reckless to try and get back into their own race, and be smart, consolidate your own class position there.
Yeah, for sure. There is an element of that, I believe, but certainly he's still having to work hard for every position. But so a man who is working hard at this moment is Wilson. He's in P6 and he's looking like he's trying to get into that P5, and he's definitely on the back of Weiss in that other BMW as they take the first chicane there, and nice and cleanly done, but a little bit of a gap there to P5 now. He's lost a little bit of ground on the entry into that chicane, but he's still very much in touching distance and close enough just to be applying the pressure, and that's what he needs to do. He needs to keep that pressure on, because we are down to the last 8 minutes of this race. Where has this half an hour gone, Celine? He's really gone quickly again. These sprint races, the 30-minute races with all these cars and all this action, are absolute joy to watch, a joy to commentate on, and I'm sure they're a joy to drive in, although these guys probably won't be thinking too much about that at this moment in time. They probably don't even notice the time that's left, because they're just so focused on each other and the races they're having.
Yeah, most definitely. These guys are just going to be pushing so hard, trying to get positions, especially with Monty wanting to have a look at what Weiss has sitting in his boot, but not quite making it there just yet, as they contend with one of the back markers who probably got in trouble a little bit earlier. That gap is opened up between Weiss and Wilson just a little bit as of right now, but it's quite possible that gap will close down again, and we'll be right back to some spicy action. And speaking of that, we have Moran, Oak, and Solberg all in a three-way battle for 7th, 8th, and 9th, as the BMWs looks like they're perfectly comfortable getting a little bit of airtime, just like the Bentley was known for around here.
Yeah, for sure. It seems a very controllable car, and it's doing a great job around what is a difficult track. It's more suited really to the lighter, nimbler cars. Is Zolder in a lot of respects, because it is such a tight, twisty track and not a lot of margin for error. But these guys and girls this evening doing a great job in the GT3 machinery that's on show this evening, and a lot of BMWs on track, and certainly putting each other under pressure, and nobody's getting an easy ride of it out here tonight, as we're looking at the BMW Moran in 7th and Hoek in 8th. Solberg recovered back up to P9. I can't remember, Celine, where he dropped down to at the beginning of the race with that turn 2 incident, but certainly that's a solid drive to be up into P9 for him.
Yeah, man, I don't think he thankfully didn't lose too many positions with that opening lap incident, but definitely a positive recovery drive for Troll Solberg there, as he's obviously trying to get his way possibly even as high as 7th with Moran and Oak squabbling with each other. As Monty tries a little bit of side-by-side action for the first chicane. It looks like maybe he's got the inside on Weiss, but is it possible that maybe looks like Weiss is going to concede the position and maybe try for a switchback later, or if Monty just has the pace, then maybe he'll be able to pull away. But Lucas, I don't know, unless for some reason he's struggling with that car or having some damage, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if this is the end of this battle by a long stretch. They've still got just under 5 minutes to go, and I have a sneaky suspicion Weiss will not want to be lose that position for very long.
No, I think Wilson potentially will, if he can just get out of the pressure zone, he'll start to stretch his legs a little bit. I think he's had the pace, but Weiss at the moment he's keeping him honest, and he'll keep that pressure on as long as he can. But yeah, I think Wilson's got the lap time to maybe just put a few tenths between him, and that's all it takes to give them that little bit of a comfort zone and consolidate the position they're in there, and take away the pressure if they can. And he's definitely starting to stretch his legs a little bit now. He's got 3 tenths between them, so I think that's battle done. It'll all tell very much now how they both attack this first chicane. If Wilson gets through it cleanly, then I think he's home dry. He'll start to put a bit of a gap on Weiss and just get away a little bit.
Yeah, Monty was definitely showing some really strong pace in race 1, so it's he's got everything where he likes it. He's certainly capable of pulling away for for this race, as well as we see few little rubs and taps between David Oak and Fritz Solberg, although it looks like Solberg's now moved up position, and that recovery drive continues for Solberg. He's after that lap 1 incident, just slowly clawing back those positions.
Yeah, Solberg just he got through on the entry to the second chicane there, and it looked like Oak was just carrying a bit more speed, a bit surprised by it, and just rubbed the rear end of Solberg on the exit of that chicane. But no damage done, no sort of, I don't think there's any intent there. It was just one of those things, a bit of a speed differential after the move. But yeah, great drive from Solberg, back up to what is P8 at the moment, and it's not over yet. 3 minutes to go, and he's got P7 in his sights, but not quite sure he's got enough time to do that unless there's any mistakes up ahead.
Yep, and as you might say, when it comes to GT racing, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of bump and grind, although if you ask R. Kelly, that can definitely land you in some legal hot water, so just keep it on the racetrack, everyone. And as we're seeing now, Henry Handy trying to make a move for P11 with Chris Stevenson holding the lead in the AM class again this race. Although it might be a situation where if Henry's really got the pace, it might be a smarter move for Stevenson to just let that position go, because it's overall, you don't want to risk getting tipped around with 2 minutes left in the race and risking losing that second consecutive win.
Yeah, and as with the race 1, Seville's just crossed the line now, so I think we're going to see 2 more laps of battling, so two more full laps to go at this point. So yeah, like you say, Stevenson's probably better off just letting Handy go through, and because at the moment, while he's defending, he's just slowing himself down as well, and that's not what he wants to be doing. He just wants to keep it clean, and it takes some doing, though, doesn't it, as a driver, you know, to give away a position. Doesn't matter what class they're in, you're still giving away a position, aren't you, and it hurts.
Yeah, you ideally you don't want to give away a position and admit to, you know, maybe you're losing time and whatnot, but especially if it were me in a position like this, I might, with someone like a driver like Henry with his toolbox, if he's definitely got the pace, I'd say the smarter thing to do, especially if he's got the run, is let him go, consolidate that AM class first place, make sure you've got comfortable buffer, and not somebody in the pro class maybe trying to make that extra move to do something, and you know, if they get a little impatient, you could find yourself caught up in an incident that you really didn't need to be in because they're trying to make up their own ground.
Yeah, just interestingly, Miles Dixon in P18 at the moment, he was having a great recovery drive because he was down in 30 something at one point, but unfortunately, I'm guessing that's for track limits. He's got a drive through, so he's going to have to take a drive through, or if he doesn't, as we're so close to the end of the race, he will get an automatic time penalty when he crosses the line, so he's going to drop down the order quite a few places. When you look at the interval times on there's a lot of people close together, and he's going to drop back behind all of them because he's going to get a considerable time penalty, I think, when he does cross the line.
Yes, we're seeing Seville negotiate the back markers on what's probably going to be his final lap. And I wonder if maybe Natalie made that just a little bit more difficult for him, although I don't think her Turn 1 teammate Ian Fisher is going to be quite close enough to be able to get there to maybe make up that position, but just a little bit of, a little bit of that team rivalry of I'm not going to make this any easier than I have to. But definitely this race, Jonathan Seville just managing to get that lead early doors and just absolutely rocket off into the distance and just completely dominate this race, even though maybe the McLaren is not as strong here as it would have been at the Nürburgring, but just pretty much lights the flag, having no real opposition, does a little bit of groundskeeping towards the end and comes across and takes the win, with Fisher just following up in second place right behind as Clement and Sandberg. Oh, a little bit of fisticuffs towards the end. We'll see who crosses the line first. Looks like probably going to be Sandberg, just beating him out as Clements is probably like, oh, if I take that position that way, it's just going to get me in hot water with the stewards and going to be summoned to the office, so let's not do that, and just leaves positions as it were. Coming across in fifth, we have Wilson holding onto that position, Weiss, Morant, Solberg with the recovery drive up into P8, Oak, Edmondson and rounding out the top 10. Chris Stevenson manages to win AM class for both races here at Zolder. 12th place Henry Handy, and Kyle Daffern 13th, Hutchinson 14th, Smith in 15th, Bryant 16th place, Constantinides in 7th, Miles Dixon in P18, and looks like he's going through the pits for that to do that drive through for 18th position. And unfortunately, it seems like pit wall has died on me, ladies and gentlemen, so I can't unfortunately give you the rest of the results, but it would seem that we've had yet another exciting 30 minutes here at Zolder. So very much well done to everyone for this race, and we're just going to be waiting on some interviews. Looks like we have Stevenson and Seville waiting, so we'll grab them in just a moment. Wait to see if we can find ourselves a Fisher. Haven't seen him yet, so we'll start with winner of race 2, Jonathan Seville, and just bring him in here. So we've got Jonathan Seville, race winner of the second round. Jonathan?
Hello.
Very, very dominant second 30 minutes here at Zolder. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, I knew, just like in the first race, I had to just make sure I tried getting the jump. BMW's, well, Fisher proved that it's very quick here. I think, what was the quali gap? I think it was like 0.005.
Yep, 5 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, which is ridiculously close. But yeah, I knew I had to get the jump into the first turn. We went side by side, managed to make it stick, and then I knew I was always scared of the first chicane because the McLaren's just so slow through there. You can use the curbs so much more in the BMW, and they can take so much more speed through there. So I knew it was going to be tight into the second chicane, which obviously I lost out in race 1, but managed to stay in the lead for race 2. And yeah, just tried to pull away. I didn't know if it was going to be possible, but I managed it. So yeah, pretty pleased.
Yeah. So you were mentioning the the BMW being able to take the curbs a lot better. Were you finding the McLaren being a little stronger in that first sector with those broader, more sweeping corners?
Yeah, that's its strongest sector, the first sector, where I can use the downforce of the car. But the chicanes are horrible in the McLaren. Like, I think I was looking at sector times. I think on average, I was like 3 or 4 tenths slower in some cases than other people in the middle sector. Yeah, Fisher drove a great race as well. Yeah, he kept. I've got what I was going to say now. In race 1, yeah, he drove a good job just to keep me behind. He didn't make any mistakes and just kept the lead, which is what he needed to do. So yeah, great job by him too.
Yep, great respect between the two competitors. Well, thanks very much for joining us in the broadcast booth again, and best of luck for the next round, as we're going to be bringing your competitor and now closest rival in, and Garrett Fisher, winner of round 1. Well done. And could you talk us through that first race, please?
I won. No, it was quite tricky because on the inside, starting on the inside, Seville could go around the outside quite easily with the McLaren, since it's very fast in that first corner. And then I kind of lost it there, but then in the chicane, he outbraked himself, so I could get past. And then it's basically driving home from there, since it's so hard to overtake here without the other making a big mistake, like you could see in race 2 as well. But it was very fun. It was good racing.
Were you perhaps struggling with the car a little more in race 2, or was it just that Seville just was able to get that pass done and just kind of run away with it?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I kept close in the first few laps, and then I made 2 mistakes, or the car was trying to kill me a little bit, and I lost like 2 seconds sliding. So, you know, and then I gradually lost more over the stint, and he got faster and faster basically. So.
I see. So yeah. Is you finding the BMW much different today than it was yesterday?
Yeah, it's a little different. It's just, I don't think it's the car in itself. It's just that the setup was a bit, a lot more dangerous and unpredictable than we had before. So less consistent.
I see. So things maybe were just a little bit too spicy. So, well done again for the race win in round 1, and hopefully we'll see you and Seville have a chance to have yet another tussle in the next round, or possibly even in the team's championship. So, Garrett Fisher, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll be moving over to our AM class winner now, as it would help if I grabbed the right person in the Discord, and welcome Chris Stevenson, AM class winner for both races this evening, or Stevo as everyone in Turn 1 knows him. Stevo, talk us through your race.
So the first one, after Turn 1, shenanigans was quite uneventful again, unfortunately. I got spun out. Or fortunately, I got spun out in the second chicane by a car coming back on. Managed to recover it, carried on consistently, best I could. And then race 2, massive pile up after Turn 1 into Turn 2. That was luck more than anything, I think. I didn't get caught up in that. I did make a mistake of taking the same tyre set as race 1, which was interesting because they were gone. But no, overall it was quite just trying to be as consistent as I can at the moment. I've got the pace there now, magically it's appeared, but just trying to keep it consistent, not make any mistakes.
Yep, and consistency seems to be exactly what the doctor ordered, because he was P2 in the first round, and now 2 wins here for rounds 2 and 3 here at Zolder, if I remember correctly.
It feels good. I now realise what everyone's been saying to me for months, that the GTR was holding me back slightly, maybe. But I'm glad I can transfer the skills and things that I've learned over to the M4 and actually do well It's a nice feeling.
Yep. And are you finding the BMW much different today from yesterday with the patch?
Funnily enough, it handles more like a better GTR now, to me. Like, it's a very familiar style of driving that I have to use with it because it's what I raced in the GTR for such a long time. Me and this car just get on. I just got in it and straight away felt the difference, and it's just been so much better ever since, including after this patch.
Interesting. So we've definitely got some different feelings of how the BMW has been changed. So Chris Stevenson, thank you very much for joining us in the broadcast booth. Best of luck for the next round, and we'll see, possibly see you next week. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and we're going to be moving to our next round for the Solo Championship on February 1st in Donington. And that one is going to be back to the single race format. But for next week, it's going to be the first round of the team championships. Unfortunately, you won't be hearing my lovely voice for that, as I'll be driving with Natalie Lee for Turn 1 in the Turn 1 Valkyrie's car. And that's going to be on January 26th, and we'll be figuring out how best to bring that to you via the Turn 1 YouTube channel, as it might be a simple matter of we're gonna park one of our cameras in the car and let you ride along with us. But for now, that is for this race. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. A quick shout out one more time to our sponsors. Simracing Solutions bring us all the lovely pictures. We have simracing.gp behind the servers tonight, or making these races possible. JCT 600, the Exiled Sim Racing community. Look them up if you need a new league or are looking for a new place to race. Turn 1 providing the YouTube channel and the home of streaming. I have been Celine from Turn 1. Thank you so much, and to Steve, producer Steve, for stepping in and doing some commentary while working all his lovely camera magic. And so remember, for the Turn 1 YouTube page, click like, click subscribe, share with all your friends, and remember, if there's one thing you want to do in racing, it's survive Turn 1, even if that's your team name.